Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, a Baxter Professional Services production. Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, where we're experts in nursing and experts in business. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. This week's episode is How One Nurse's Servant Nature Led Her to Project Management. And today's guest is Lanisha Thadison. Tired of feeling trapped in a job that no longer fulfills you? Is your nursing job no longer the fun-filled adventure you imagined? Find your passion again through nurse entrepreneurship. Step out into the light and come feel the sun. Join the Nurse Shark Academy today at thenurssharkacademy.biz and come feel the sun. Hello, and welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. We interview nurse leaders and encourage them to tell your story. My mission is for you to own your seat at the table of nurse entrepreneurship, gaining the confidence, skills, and freedom to live your life on your own terms. You will dream big and expand your consciousness as an entrepreneur. Join us and support these wonderful nurse entrepreneurs and leaders. You can also follow us at podbean.com, and don't forget to like and subscribe on the notification bell on YouTube. We have today's guest is Lanisha Thadison out of Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the show, Lanisha.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. Now, it looks like I'm just reading off your brief bio here. It says you've had a decade of experience creating systems, workflows, and automation in the healthcare industry as a registered nurse. First of all, to those nurses out there that are thinking, oh, that's tech stuff, and I don't want to do anything with tech stuff, there's more to it than that. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your nursing background? What made you become a nurse?
That's a great question. So I think initially I was just always born with a servant nature. I was around a lot of older people in my family and was like helping in that caregiver role. And actually, when I went off to school initially, I went as a pharmacist major. And my grandmother, who always calls me her little nurse, I was telling her that I was going to pharmacy school. And I'm like, but I just don't know if this is for me. And she just said, you'll figure it out, my little nurse. And I just kept, and that stuck with me. And I'm like, nursing. That's it. Like, I've been doing this. I've had this servant nature. I have the desire to help people. Nursing is what it is. And so this was right in the beginning of college. So I switched my major maybe like 2 weeks of being a freshman in college and switched over to nursing. And I haven't looked back since.
That's so interesting because I had someone speak over me that I was going to be a nurse, and I fought against it. I was like, no, I'm going to go into medicine. I'm going to be a doctor. That was my plan. And I got into my pre-med, and I realized, and I spent time with my doctor family. You know, I've got family members that are physicians, and I thought, yeah, this isn't it. So I hear you on that. Sometimes you think where you want to be is where you're going, but God has a different plan, and you might turn you around in a different direction.
Yes.
So what was your first nursing job out of school?
So I had a very untraditional route into nursing. So actually my first job was in home health, which is, when I say it's not traditional, because typically new grads aren't going straight into home health because it requires a skill set of an experienced nurse because you're going out kind of by yourself and seeing patients. But at that time, it was just very difficult to find a job in the hospital. So I started out in home health, and it actually did me very well because I learned a lot very quickly and learned to become independent and start using those critical thinking skills way faster than some of my counterparts who went straight to the hospital.
I get that because if you're doing the traditional, everybody says, oh, do your time in med surge, right? Before you go into other specialties. But I didn't do that either. I had my fill of med surge, when I was a nurse tech. I was like, I do not want to work on med surge. And I really wanted to go into psychiatry where I ended up. So it worked
Oh,
out for me.
oh, that's
And
cool.
I learned a lot. You learn a lot being on a psych unit,
Oh yeah.
particularly one that's a medical psych unit, because you get all the fun stuff and the psych stuff at the
Yes.
same time. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. So yeah, home health, and then eventually into the hospital, more so like telemetry,
Okay.
and then back into home health. And then that's when I started going into insurance, case management, and auditing after that.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So you've had a broad spectrum, and I have to say, having been worked in home health as an aide, and then later on as a hospice NP and all that stuff, I
Mm.
get it. You have to be very independent,
Yeah.
and you're walking in somebody's house, and you don't have all the tools that you have in the ER. You got to triage stuff, and yeah, I get that. I worked in long term care too, so both as a CNA and an MP. So when you're in the field like that, which sometimes I kind of miss the field work, I really do. I kind of miss the field work. You're in the field like that. You never know what's going to be thrown at you. Was there ever a time when you were, because there's so much going on right now, and we're having these conversations. Thought it'd be good to touch on this. Was there ever a time when you were in home care where you felt unsafe in someone's home?
Oh, unsafe. Yes. I'm thinking because woo, I got some stories that will keep you here forever. But yes, there were times where I felt unsafe. I had some elderly patients who had like young grandchildren in the house, and then the grandchildren bring all of their friends, and then it's just a lot of people in the house at one time, and you just don't know what people's intentions are. You don't know if they're a little sketchy. You don't know what's going on,
Yes.
and it mainly is because the grandmother will tell me stories about the grandkids and how they have weapons and things of that sort. So, in that sense, yes, it was safe. And then you also have to think about your patient at that time, if it's safe for them to be there. And then, we're mandated reporters. So then what would be the next step?
Yeah, I remember working in home care and had the husband was starting to have dementia, and I caught it, and I told the nurses, I said, hey, I think he's having some dementia. Well, of course, he denies it. The family denies it. They're all in denial. But I'm like, no, I think he's starting to have some dementia, because I was there to take care of the wife, but I noticed the changes in the husband. Well, he
Mm,
started walking around the house with a shotgun. And I'm
mm-hmm.
like, I'm not going to be here if he's going to have his gun out. I'm
Yeah.
leaving. And
Yep.
so uh, a few years later, after I had finished, was working on the psych unit, who comes up onto our unit was this man in full blown dementia. And I said, I kind of told y'all this. I had a
Yeah.
conversation with them, and they said, I actually saw it. And they said, you were right. We didn't see it. We apologized, because they were just all like, take her out the home and she don't need to be there and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm starting to see the changes because I was in the home a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
he would get really confused. And there was a gas leak in the house, and so I called the gas company because I could smell it, and they came out to check it. He got mad at me because the gas company came over. I mean, just little things like that. And I think that as a person coming in and out with that medical background, we can pick up things that other people can't see.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But always listen to your intuition. If your
Yeah.
intuition says don't go in or leave, you pick up your stuff and leave. Cut the visit short. We much rather have you be alive than being on the news. And I wanted to bring this up because we were talking about home care, and we've just had recently in the news several incidents of nurses being attacked or uh,
Mm.
unalived for the YouTube unalived, um, and going into home care situations, and it's very scary. And I think that we need to talk about this more because patient safety and safety of the caregiver is very important too.
Yeah, yeah, and I've had some situations where um patients and their family members may have said like threatening things, not to me, but they've said threatening things and things of they're about to go cause harm to someone else, And then I've been instructed by my leaders that, hey, you got to go make a police report. You have to go report that. And it's also like, okay, I'll go report that, but know that I can't come back to this house.
Exactly.
Because if they
Exactly.
know that they said that around me, and then I go report it, I can't just come back to the house the next day like, hey, everybody. No,
No,
it can't happen.
it's so interesting how administration will put you in unsafe um, environments and not really back up the nurses, but I think it's a little bit more backlash. I remember we had a nurse. This is when I was in home care in a nursing school, and we had a nurse in our city that got unalived by a patient. And so then they had this mandate that we were not allowed to wear our scrub jackets outside. If you
Mm.
You'd have to put them on when you got inside the home, because it was, they would make you a target if they thought you would have drugs on you. And that's what happened. They thought she had drugs on her because she was a hospice
Mm.
nurse, and they thought that they could rob her and get her drugs. And so that was a really big thing that happened, and so everybody was really scared. And I remember going into some people's homes in a particular area that was not known to be nice to people of color.
Mhm.
And my patient would say, okay, now I'm going to stand at the door and watch out for you and
Mm.
make sure you get in to the house, okay? And I let my neighbors know that you're coming in to take care of me and it's okay. And then I'm going to make sure you get back to your car, okay? So I appreciated the patient who understood where they were, what was happening. They were perfectly fine with me coming. They had no issue about it, but they didn't know about their neighbors.
Mhm.
This happened to be in a town. I won't call their name, but they know who they are. A town where basically the Klan started in
Mm.
that city here in
Mhm.
our state. It's still to this day. Even going through there, you typically don't go through there if you're a person of color at night, just in
Mm.
case, just in case,
Mhm.
you know. And so we have to have those conversations about safety and thinking about the caregivers and the nurses and the nurses' aides that we send in there. There was a gentleman we had, and he would frequently get intoxicated and be unclothed most of the time.
Mhm.
So we had to start sending in two people because we didn't know what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not going in there by myself, so you better send somebody with me because I'm not going, or he's just going to be sitting there all day unclothed because I'm not going in. And so I think we need to stand up for ourselves and find our voice. So I think that's important. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
thank you for sharing your stories. So
Mhm.
fast forward, you said you got into case management. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I had a friend that was doing insurance case management, and at that time we were still doing home visits for even for case management. It just wasn't anything medical, it was all insurance. So I was doing the home health, and I'm like, well, I'm okay with doing the home visits right now. I'll see what the case management is about. So I got hired on and realized that that would be the catapult for a lot of what I do now in regards to like how to do operations and build programs and help patients in a different type of way than the medical side. So I really enjoy what I've done in case management and helping people to navigate the system, because that is a whole thing in itself. Like when you have an elderly patient who doesn't know how to get a referral for HMO, or her prescription isn't going through and she can't get to the pharmacist. It's like all these little logistical things that at the end of the day affect their care and their quality of life if they don't have certain things in place. And yeah, healthcare is wild. It's
Yes,
wild to navigate.
I was just fighting with PAs today. Prior authorizations for those who don't know, but yeah,
Mhm.
it is difficult. I had a client that was I'm a parish nurse, so she was one of our parishioners, and I went in there. I'm the nurse, so they send me in to do assessments. So I go in there and I find out that the doctor had started her on a medication for her stroke. She had had a stroke, but she couldn't afford it. So she
Yeah.
never picked it up. So she was having more stroke like symptoms. And I found out she didn't take the medicine because it was too expensive. And I said, why didn't you call the doctor? Well, I didn't want to bother him.
Yep, that
and, and,
happens.
and
Oh my
that's what I
God.
say. And so it's things like that. And as a clinician, those experiences made me a better clinician because I often ask, okay, is this medicine's new? It may cost more money if your insurance doesn't pay. I look it up on GoodRx or whatever and say, hey, this is what it costs. Are you going to be able to afford that before we even write the prescription? Because if you're not going to be able to afford it and your insurance not going to pay for it because it's new medicine, why start it? And if you're not eligible for patient assistance, because a lot of times those programs, and what a lot of people don't understand, if you're on Medicaid and Medicare, you don't qualify for assistance from the drug company.
Yep.
and
Yep.
and that is a problem. I think you're right. Healthcare is wild, and I think the way we do it is not sustainable. And so
No.
nurses like yourself are out there helping us come up with a better system. So how did you move then from working for the insurance companies and doing case management to wanting to own your own business?
Yeah, so I got to a point where I was doing a lot of operational tasks at one of the insurance plans and building programs from the ground up. So it was a lot of operations and project management mixed together. And I realized that I was good at it, right? And so I'm like, I'm sure small businesses need these same things. They need solid operations, and they need a solid plan if they're launching their services and the technology part of it. So when I decided that I wanted to start a business, I always knew that it was going to be something related to that.
That's important. That's one of the things I always talk about is having those operations set up, the proper ways to conduct your businesses will save you. I was just on a Facebook group, a local Facebook group, and they were talking about this person posted anonymously that they had to shut down their business because one, she found out she didn't like being an entrepreneur. Okay. And two, she didn't set up her tax structure appropriately.
Mhm.
So now she's getting hit with massive tax bills. And I say, have those conversations, get that in place before you hang out your shingle so that you are starting from a good place. And I'm not faulting her or anything like that, but a lot of nurses don't know what to do or how to set it up. Nursing, for a lot of it, it's scripted for us, right? We go in, they tell you what the job description is, they tell you you've got this formulary you got to follow, they tell you, okay, these are the policies and procedures. It's all laid out for you. But what happens when you have to write your own policies and procedures?
Mhm.
So, can you talk a little bit more about how it is that you help these businesses?
Yeah. So initially, when I started, I was doing a lot of helping with like workflows and processes, like you said, the SOPs, because
Mhm.
entrepreneurs were thinking about bringing in new employees and had nothing set up for them, no structure, no way to train
Mhm.
them. Everything lived in their head and their head only. And I'm like, when you start to bring people in, and really when you're a solopreneur, it's nice to have that stuff written out and have everything organized. So it started there and then transitioned into more tech implementation because people knew that I was good at tech. I'm a nerd. I love it. So I started doing the tech. So doing CRMs, which are client relationship management tools, and setting up project management tools, and making sure that they have things automated, and email marketing automation. So it kind of just turned into something on its own because of word of mouth, and people knew that I was good on the tech side, in addition to like the operation side.
And I think that's important because I talk to some nurses that are like, "Oh my gosh, the technology is so terrifying, it's scary." And I said, "Hey, do you know how to build a funnel?" And they're like, "What's a funnel?"
Yeah.
I said,
Yep.
oh, okay, well, let's talk about that. I said, well, what is it that you're doing? I had a home care business that was wanting to expand and open up a franchise or another location. And I said, okay, great. You want to get the office manager? What's your job description? And I got a list of duties. And I'm like, this isn't a job description.
Right, 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 right.
I said, okay, well, all right, we'll work on the job description. I said, so tell me what is your onboarding process like, right? What's your policies and procedures? How do you train them to duplicate what you're doing in your current location so they can do it at your satellite location?
Mm-hmm.
Crickets,
Yeah.
crickets. And the sad thing is that this person really didn't want to put in the work to get that done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see that often. I think people they like the glamorous side of like sales and marketing, but don't realize that if you don't have solid operations, if you don't have those things in place, you can cut open the funnel to get more clients and more leads, but then you won't be able to maintain them or keep them or satisfy them, deliver your service without the right operations. So you got to
Precisely.
have it all.
Precisely. And I think that if people would understand that even though that's the piece of your business that other people don't see, they will feel it. They
Yes.
will know when your operations are messy.
Yes. I
And
say that
that's
all the time.
people will your employees will know. Why? Because their payroll will be late. You'll forget to do what you promised. You'll mess up the scheduling. All these things will happen. You won't handle complaints correctly. Then you're standing in front of them in a meeting yelling at them about what they're not doing, and they're just going to walk out the door.
Yep.
I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Um, so tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. What were some of the biggest hurdles that you had as you started your business?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest parts for me was definitely probably like the lead generation aspect of it. I think that initially when I started, because this was still like COVID, like right after COVID, so we were all online. Everybody was online, so it was easier to get in front of people, right? But when people
Right.
started going out more and the world started opening up, then the lead generation became a little bit different because everybody's not so glued to social media. And now you have to find another avenue in addition to posting to get more leads. So that was something that I had to get used to because I really built the business online. So now doing more in networking events, doing going to more events and meeting other business entrepreneurs locally, that has become a priority as well.
I happen to agree. That's something I noticed. We really kind of took off during the pandemic in our current business. And I noticed that as the world has opened up, people are not as easy to get on a webinar or Zoom. They're tired of Zoom. They want to see you face to face. And what does that mean? But we still live in a very busy, fast-paced world. So catching their attention has become increasingly difficult. And then, of course, you have the ever-changing algorithms on Meta, LinkedIn, and everything else.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's slowly turning to a pay to play. So you can definitely still get traction posting organically and reaching people, but of course they're going to make priority to the people who are paying for like ads and things.
Yeah. And unfortunately, on social media, I've also seen a boom in scammers, people that
Mm.
promise things and harass you. I've
Oh
been
yeah.
I've been harassed so much on Instagram. It's not even funny with stuff like, oh, I want you to showcase my wares, and I'll send you this jewelry, and then I research all of them. They're like bogus companies and things like that. And so people have to learn about how to protect yourself online with social media. And if you're working in the healthcare industry, how to protect the client's information too. So being HIPAA compliant and all of those safeguards are so important. So I'm sure you have that as part of your operational thing of taking a look at that, making sure that they're compliant what they need to do.
Yes, yep. And then making sure if you are like in the healthcare business and you have to have HIPAA compliance, there's certain tools you can't use because they just don't have that type of feature. So taking all of that into consideration.
Exactly. When the pandemic first hit at my clinical practice, we were using Microsoft Teams because they were HIPAA compliant for the most part. We weren't allowed to use Zoom. We weren't allowed to use, we have iPhones, so we weren't allowed to use FaceTime. So we're
Hmm.
not supposed to do that. Occasionally we did because at first we were just doing phone calls. And so occasionally we would do FaceTime. But those, again, aren't secure. So those things that people need to understand. Now we have a fully integrated system with our electronic medical record that they'll come into the visit and they're actually in the medical record when they do
Yeah.
it. So that's been a nice feature, and I like the fact that we are doing more telemedicine. So that's another area that needs, there's I'm sure more regulation is going to come down the road, but I don't think telemedicine is going away, and I'm kind of glad for that.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you now, you included here for our listeners a complimentary systems audit. If they get in touch with you, what does that entail?
Yeah, so this is for entrepreneurs, whether you're brand new or seasoned entrepreneur. You need to make sure that you have the right systems in your business because that is going to be a component of the operations. So there have been times that I'll get on this complimentary call and I'm chatting and we're talking about things, and I realize that, hey, you have a duplication of systems. You don't need this. And so even on like this 30-minute call, I had a client who saved $4,000 just by canceling an annual subscription because she had a duplication in systems. Or people who get on the call and have no idea what systems they should be using. So offering those suggestions to them as well. So it's good to be able to talk to somebody like myself who's played in all type of systems, learned them all because there's a ton of them out there,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then are able to offer these suggestions to entrepreneurs to take the guesswork out of what they should be using.
Well, that sounds great. And I'm going to say, if they want to get this complimentary systems audit, how might they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website. It is www.lanishathadison.com. So just my name, or you can find me on any social media platform under Lanisha Thadison, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. That's great. So, again, go to our website, lanishathadison.com, and request your complimentary systems audit and mention that you heard her on the Nurse Shark Academy show. So, lastly, I want to ask if you had one piece of advice for a budding entrepreneur, what would it be?
Oh, that's good. Okay, if I had one piece of advice, um, I would say, depending on your budget, sometimes it's easier to have it done for you than to do it yourself. And I say that because I did a lot of DIY. So you're talking to the DIY queen, but it took a time commitment and investment. And if you're someone who is trying to get the business started, you want to get it done right without, trying to learn everything and invest months and time into learning the different systems or the ins and out of the business. If you can invest in yourself, get a coach, get a consultant, work with somebody to help you beat that learning curve. Most of the time, you'll save a lot of money doing it that way, money and time is currency.
That is so definitely true. Time is definitely currency, and I am the DIY person as myself. I like to learn the stuff and then teach others how to do it. Um, and so I really appreciate your time and being here. You've been a wonderful guest. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we go?
I'll just say that if there is anyone here that may be trying to figure out if they want to go into entrepreneurship and are not sure, or they're having some type of imposter syndrome that's keeping them stagnant, I would suggest that you just do it. And I'm a woman of faith, so especially if the Lord is leading you to start something or do something, don't be afraid to give it a chance.
All right. Well, I happen to agree with that, and uh, go with your faith, right?
Yeah.
And take a chance. And we're nurses. We can do this. If you can write a care plan, you can write a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's good. Yep.
you have the steps. You know how to do this. I think we just cut ourselves too short. We just I hate to hear nurses say I'm just a nurse. And
Mm,
I always like to turn around and say, no, you are a just nurse, meaning that you fight for the rights of your peers and your patients. You are an advocate. Don't ever forget that.
yeah, that's good.
All, all right. Well, this has been our show. I want to thank Lanisha Thadison for being our guest. Again, if you would remember to, if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time we have an episode. Don't forget about our other show, the Nursing News You Can Use, our live news show that happens on YouTube and our Facebook pages every week on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Eastern time. And also, if you're listening to us on Podbean, don't forget to download our episodes wherever you get your episodes. Leave us a comment and a review. We'd greatly appreciate that. And also, if you become a patron of our show, then you have additional content that's available just to our patrons. So I want to thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. Nurses, are you ready for more? My mission is for you to own your seat at the table of nurse entrepreneurship, gaining confidence, skills, and the freedom to live your life on your own terms. Assisting you in achieving your goals through tailored advice, continuous learning, and a collaborative approach is at the heart of everything I do. Stop being eaten alive. Come feel the sun. Be a nurse shark. Thank you for listening to the Nurse Shark Academy show wherever you get your podcasts or watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you'll know when all of our episodes come out. If you want further information, you can contact us on the NurseSharkAcademy.biz.